social media strategist for the LSU Ag Center. And today we are going to be discussing Victory Gardens. So Victory Gardens were really popular during World War I and World War II. They're vegetable, fruit, and herb gardens planted during that time to supplement rations and boost morale. So during this public health emergency, Victory Gardens are making a really huge comeback, and we're seeing an influx of new gardeners, and we're getting a lot of questions. Our horticulture agents over here are getting a lot of questions. Yes, today we have Anna Timmerman with us, horticulture agent. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. And so she's our horticulture agent in Jefferson, Orleans, Plaquemine, St. Bernard, and St. Charles.
Yep, with me, Dr. Joe and Chris Dunaway. The three of us cover that whole area.
So we all cover it all.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really cool. Right now, y'all are working remotely, correct?
Yeah, we have been for about a month now, which has been great for me because I've had time to work on my gardens a little bit more.
Yeah. That's really cool.
And, just get to show people stuff. So it's been actually a really productive time, and there are a lot of new gardeners, and it's been nice for me because I just bought the house, showing people how to basically start from scratch.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I mean, that's why I wanted to have you on, because you're doing your own Victory Gardens, and I wanted to really encourage new gardeners that even if you have a small space, you can do a lot with it.
Yep.
Is that true?
Yeah, that is true. I'm on a 60 by 120 foot lot in the 9th Ward of New Orleans, so I don't have a ton of space to work with. So I spent a lot of time thinking about the ways I could maximize the space and where I should put things. I definitely encourage a lot of the new people that I'm working with to kind of observe where their sunlight is and where their water points are, things like that. And then we do mostly raised beds here in New Orleans because we have heavy clay soil. So I've been advising a lot of folks on how to do that, and I was able to build 5 new raised beds at my house.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay, well, everyone's saying hi over here. Audrey's saying hi to you. Cynthia's saying hi. Janet's saying I'm here. Susie says hi.
Oh, hi, everyone. I see my mom joined.
But it's kind of up to you. I'll leave it up to you to kind of take it over and talk about Victory Garden and, what you're doing on your property and everything.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we're outside here and the Wi-Fi is working pretty well. So I'll just show folks kind of what I've got going. This is one of the first raised beds that I started maybe a month ago. And with this, it's got a lot of tomatoes. It had some beets and radishes in it. I've pulled those. I've switched to beans for the summer. I've got a little lettuce left and some arugula. And then I've got tomatoes. There's 6 in this bed, and then there's cucumbers on that little teepee in the back. And they're going to climb up that. And then this is a bigger garden that I put in last week. So it looks a little fresher because I just transplanted stuff maybe 3 days ago.
How do you make a garden like that?
Well, it's pretty easy. I don't like tilling. I don't have a tiller. And for, I think, a lot of urban raised bed gardeners, they don't really need one. So what I did first was I laid down a big layer of cardboard, like 2 boxes thick on the bottom. What that does is it works as a weed barrier. It smothers the weeds and grass under there. It prevents them from growing up through the fresh soil for a while. And then it will biodegrade and decompose, and water can trickle through it as well. So I always put cardboard down first, and you can actually kind of see it sticking out of the edge of this garden here.
Okay.
I build my beds on top of that, and we like doing things. Usually 18 inches is our sort of standard depth for soil and raised beds here. I actually had to berm up my beds a little because I didn't have that much soil and I wasn't going to go to the store.
Yeah.
So I kind of worked with what I had. I would say minimum you would want is maybe a foot deep.
Okay.
Yeah. Ideally 2 feet would be better, but most vegetable crops that people are going to be growing in their yard, they can grow just fine with 12 inches to 18 inches of soil.
Would you recommend full sun for most vegetables?
Yeah, except for here in the summer, sometimes full sun is like nuclear sun. So if you have a site that gets some afternoon shade, that's actually a really good place to put some things that maybe need a break in the heat of the summer. So I like having my tomatoes in the afternoon shade, and you can see how those ones over here, they're shaded. But the ones in the front part of the yard are definitely going to kind of burn out earlier than the ones in the shade part. So you can be strategic about it, but ideally you want 8 hours of full sun for most vegetable crops.
Okay, and now's the time. What's this time of year to start planting? There's a lot of people asking us questions on that.
Yeah, it kind of depends on where you are in the state. New Orleans is always on the early side of any planting dates. We're getting that question a lot too. It's almost too late to get your tomatoes in now, but we do 2 tomato growing seasons here. So you actually seed your second crop for fall in July. So I've been telling people, save your tomato seeds for then. And the fall season actually has a lot less pest and disease pressure for us here. So hold off on the tomatoes. But now is a great time to put in your okra, all your squash, green beans, melons. I put in a lot of peppers and eggplants. I'm still seeding trays for both of those. And then hot weather herbs like basil. Now is a great time to get that going as well.
Okay. Yep. I wanted you to talk a little bit about what you're doing out front, giving away some plants and things like that.
Yeah, I have a free plant table in front of my house, and I always joke that my car is kind of like a mobile ag center because I usually drive around with a bunch of stuff in there for people, like publications and soil test kits. But my porch has kind of evolved into that now. So I've got soil test kits out there on the porch swing, and people have been coming by. I usually just post on Craigslist and on a couple of different Facebook groups locally. So people can come get transplants if they're, out of work or lost their income. I'm not charging people for any of that. And then I'm also seeding a lot of trays for a nonprofit called Greenlight NOLA that's based here. And they build raised bed gardens and rain barrels for socially disadvantaged communities. So they have 50 senior households in my neighborhood with 3-foot by 3-foot raised bed gardens that they've built. So all those transplants are heading out to them too. They do a weekly distribution along with some grocery items. So they come pick trays up at my house off the porch, and then they take them to the people who need them.
That's incredible. So y'all, listen to Anna, if you have the ability to give back like that, definitely give back. And, if you have the ability to grow and give away plants right now, people are really looking for plants.
They are. And all of our nurseries locally are open for the most part. There's only 2 that I know of that have closed, and most of them are doing phone orders. So you could call in an order, pay over the phone, and they'll either bring it to your house, for a small delivery charge, or they'll do curbside pickup. So you just leave your trunk open and they'll load it up for you, and there's no contact. They've been really good about that. And everyone's seeing a huge demand in stuff for fruit trees and vegetable transplants and seeds. So it's good for the horticulture industry too, but people are really, really planting right now.
That's awesome. Evie is asking, where are you located? Can we buy seedlings from you so that the funds go to your donation work?
I'm in the upper 9th ward, and I just have a lot of seeds because of my job. I collect them and have way too many, but I did get some more soil and transplant pots from the Hammond Research Station as a part of the Crepe Myrtle Bark Scale grant that I've been helping with for a few years. So I'm actually all set, but thanks for the offer.
That's really cool. And y'all feel free to ask questions about Victory Gardens, any kind of questions you have. Anna's just going to show us around her gardens, tell us about what she's doing, and kind of just go through, different aspects of Victory gardening.
Yeah, you can see it's the front of my house. It's pretty much full sun this time of year, and then I've got butterfly gardens in front of the other part of the house.
Neat. Okay.
But yeah, if people have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yeah, for sure. We've been using a lot of Anna's tips on Victory gardening and things like that right now on the Ag Centers page, and it's been really receiving some good response. Can you talk about, for people who can't or just can't afford buying seeds and things like that right now, if they're going to the grocery and buying, produce, can they actually grow that?
Yeah, they can. And that was actually one of the first tips I posted about was different vegetable scraps that you can regrow. And I had some celery going, and it rooted in some water, and it's already planted out in my garden now in the backyard. Sweet potatoes too. It's a great time to plant those. Normally we'd encourage people to purchase certified disease-free slips for their sweet potatoes, but they've been next to impossible to find. So a lot of folks are growing their own, and you can do that just by sprouting them in a cup of water with the sweet potato from the store. And a lot of stuff you can save seeds from. I actually got a question from somebody about how to save pepper seeds, like from their bell peppers. So if you do a quick Google search, there's a lot of really good articles out there right now about growing things that you might have in your kitchen. Like, we're in New Orleans, everyone has bags of dry beans in their cabinets because of Red Bean Mondays. A lot of folks are growing red beans and black-eyed peas in their gardens right now. Actually, I have a whole row of them going.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, your dry beans in your cabinet grow. That's a good thing.
How do you grow those? Like, how would you start them?
You just direct seed them. So I actually did a tip post about how to do a germination test, because sometimes the dry beans are heat treated to prevent them from germinating at the store. So what you would do is, and I'm sure everyone's done this in school, is you wet a paper towel and you put some seeds on it, fold up the paper towel and put it in a Ziploc baggie, and you see what grows. You actually do that with your dry beans, and you can see what kind of germination rate you're going to get. And then you just plant them out in the garden, once you know that it's viable seed. So it's very, very easy. Aphids and leaf miners are some of the pests that I've been seeing. And then I've got a caterpillar infestation this time of year that I'm trying to stay on top of. But beans grow really, really easy here. And now's the time to plant them. Everyone's got beans. So,
how would you do the sweet potato slips? Like, how would you grow the sweet potato?
I have some going in my kitchen, and what I did was just used an old cup in a vase and then put the sweet potato in, so it's half in water, half out of water, and it should take a couple weeks to sprout. You could also just plant the sweet potato in a pot with some soil and wait for it to sprout, and then you cut those sprouts and root those in water, and then that's what you actually end up planting out in your garden.
Okay.
So it's very easy. There's some good YouTube videos too about how to do that one in particular. And actually some of our edible schoolyard teachers here are used to growing sweet potatoes at their schools. They've actually started growing sweet potato slips and giving them away. So
really,
that's really cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's super cool. Okay. Yep. We had a few questions. Stevie's asking best growing medium for hydroponics.
Ooh, for hydroponics, that's a little trickier. Our 2 hydroponic stores in New Orleans are still open, and a lot of them do carry rock wool. They're like little cubes of rock kind of substance. And then they also have clay marbles. That's another thing you would grow in. And I've seen where people even use 5-gallon pails full of those clay marbles and rig up kind of a DIY system.
Wow.
The tricky part about hydroponics this time of year, or I guess where we are as a society, is getting the materials, the liquid feeds, the fertilizers, the pH conditioner, that stuff, because it is pretty input heavy if you're going to try to grow hydroponically versus in the soil.
Fair enough. Audrey's asking, is it preparedness, not to harvest necessarily, but to establish for next year?
Is it asparagus?
Asparagus, yeah.
You would have to order crowns online and plant them. I know that some of the seed companies have gone to commercial only accounts and they're not filling orders. So you do have to call around. Some of the garden centers may have asparagus crowns, but typically that's something you would order in and you'd have it, ready to go into the ground when it would be appropriate to plant. And it's actually too hot to get them going now. So I would wait on asparagus.
All right. Stevie's also asking, where can you find USA seeds versus overseas seeds?
Most of the seed companies that you would order from online are actually based in the US. There's very strict standards about seed handling and packaging, and they have to be licensed. So there's a few that I really like. Usually I'd be ordering from Johnny's, but they're commercial only now. Baker Creek, I think, has stopped filling orders. Southern Exposure might still be filling some orders. But if you can, go to your local garden center or call your local garden center and see what they have on the shelves. Any of the seed that's going to be available is going to be something that you'd want to get right now. There are very few GMO things. That's a question we get a lot. Like a homeowner is not going to be able to get a hold of GMO seeds. That's something that's heavily licensed and regulated, and you'd have to be a huge commercial grower to even have that. So, try to buy local if you can, get what you can, and, definitely check out our planting guides. We had a lot of folks buy things that just don't grow this time of year, like lettuce. Actually cilantro here is a winter crop. So it's a little late for that, but people were buying things that really you can't plant now until October, November.
Gotcha. Yeah, we've gotten a lot of questions on stuff like that. We did post something the other day from you. We shared a post about when you plant in a really large container, how to take up that space first. Could you show us that container possibly? I don't know.
Yeah, let's go for a walk.
Yeah, let's do it.
I had a stock tank that a friend of mine gave me because he was no longer using it. And I think it's probably 100-gallon. And it's got a couple of holes in the bottom, but it was really just too big to fill with soil.
Sure, yeah, that's expensive.
This is it. Let's see.
Okay.
I'm actually doing sweet potatoes in there. There's my slips
okay.
that I planted. And I put some old pots kind of inverted in the bottom, and then covered that with some straw that I had, just to kind of fill the space, because these sweet potatoes, they don't really need a ton of room to do their thing, and they will spill over the side of this container, so it won't get hot this summer. This is a part of the house that does get a lot of sun. You can see I've got some caterpillar damage. Actually, there it is. And I sprayed spinosad a couple of days ago, so this guy's actually dead. So that's good.
Yeah. But those aren't the stinging caterpillars, are they?
No, these are not the stinging ones. We are getting a lot of calls about the buck moth caterpillars right now, and those are the stinging ones that are out. These ones are tiger moths or salt marsh caterpillars. They look very similar. Let's see, can you still hear me?
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Okay, good. I just moved to the backyard, get out of the sun. Yeah, but there's a lot of people calling about caterpillars this time of year. They're out and they're hungry. Somebody described it as caterpillar Mardi Gras on Facebook the other day, and I said,
I like that.
I like that too. So yeah, we're just trying to spray spinosad as often as we need it. We didn't get a lot of rain, so I probably won't spray for another few days. And that's a good organic product. I've got, I think the bottle's out here.
Oh, and Ruth is asking, what's the best way to make sure a small block of corn stays upright? Oh, is that spinosad?
Yeah, this is it.
Okay, great. Where can people find that? At local garden stores?
Yeah, local garden centers should be carrying it. And then actually you can order a lot of this stuff online too. You get it off Amazon, but definitely shop local if you can. Yep.
Ruth's asking, what's the best way to make sure a small block of corn stays upright?
Yeah, it probably blew over.
You're in that weather.
Yeah, I have 5 little corn plants out front too, and mine blew over also. They will naturally kind of straighten and stand up on their own eventually, but you could, if you wanted to, put little sticks next to it and tie it up if it's, feasible. If you got a lot of corn, that's not going to be feasible. But a lot of that wind damage and things that kind of blew over, they should right themselves in a day or two.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
We got a lot of wind here too.
I bet y'all did. Can you show us, so in the backyard, do you have that, we also shared a post from you on vining foods growing on a chain link fence?
Yes, that is in the side yard here. I'm doing it in a couple of spots now.
Cool. Yeah, can you explain that more? Because I think people would find that really interesting, because a lot of people have chain link fences.
Yeah, so I got this house a few months ago, and it has this sort of broken chain link fence. And eventually I'll get rid of it. But for now, I'm using it as a trellis, and this thing was completely covered in weeds. So I first kind of weeded everything, pulled all the weeds out of the chain link, and then I laid down a layer of cardboard and straw. Can you guys see that?
A little bit, yeah. You're a little blurry.
Okay. That's to keep the weeds down, and then I built this little raised bed with my loofahs. I've got cucumbers in the front one. And that's going to be a nice trellis, you know, for free. And it's easy to do. A lot of people grow mirlitons on them here. That's a really popular one. Kukutsa squash, that's another one that a lot of folks like to grow on their chain link. It's just another way to use your space efficiently.
That's incredible. What's your favorite thing to grow right now?
Well, it's tomato time right now. Normally we'd be gearing up for the Creole Tomato Festival in the French Quarter. So I'm still waiting on my first tomatoes. So I'm excited about those because I'm trying some new varieties. New for me. So
yeah.
Yep. And I also like growing mirlitons. I've got a couple different ones this year that I'm going to trellis, but they're not quite there yet. So,
okay. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about? I mean, you covered a lot of stuff, but.
Yeah. Do people have questions? I'm happy to answer them. We're also answering a lot of questions with emails and phone calls. We are still working as agents. I just want to keep reminding people that even though our offices are closed, we're still doing our jobs and we're here to help. And the call volume has gone up, which is really cool.
I can imagine so. Do you recommend that everyone emails over phone calls? Because do all the agents?
It's different for every parish. Some of our calls even bounce to Baton Rouge for some reason. So email is really the quickest, most effective way to get a hold of us because you can send photos.
Okay.
Really good. Usually we'll ask to see, oops, sorry, chickens. We'll ask to see like the area where the plant's growing or the site where you're thinking about starting a garden because we can't do site visits right now. But we can still do some consulting work just with photos and diagnose a lot of things from photos also. So we have an email that goes to all three agents here, and it's gnogardening@agcenter.lsu.edu. That's the one that we like people to use.
Okay.
Yep.
We got a few questions coming in. Cynthia's asking, can you still get lumber to build raised beds with, and where do we order soil?
Okay, if you're in the New Orleans area, the hardware stores are still open and you can use treated lumber. That's something we're getting a lot of questions about. You want pressure treated lumber here because of the termites, especially. It's treated with copper now. Back in the day, they'd use arsenic and all kinds of stuff, but that's illegal. So it's all copper based now and it's safe to use. You can call orders in to some of these larger big box hardware stores and they will do a curbside drop off if it's a big enough order, or they'll load it into your car for you.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
You do have to call ahead and it does take a while. I haven't been in probably 4 weeks now, but the Lowe's order just got loaded right into my car. So
that's pretty great though. Okay. All right.
And then for soil, all of our soil vendors are still working. They're running short on the smaller orders. I got a dump truck load from Reliable and it was 6 yards. That's their minimum. But some of the smaller garden centers will load bags for you. It's worth calling around. Our GNO Gardening newsletter had a list of all the nurseries and garden centers and soil suppliers in it with their phone numbers. So I would start there.
Oh, good. How can they find that newsletter if they're new to it?
If they just do a quick Google search, GNO Gardening, as in Greater New Orleans Gardening newsletter, April 2020, it'll come up. It's the very first thing.
Awesome. I'll put a link to at the end of this video and have it out for everybody. Cool. Stevie's asking, I recently bought a blueberry plant. Is it best to grow in a pot or in the ground?
Normally we would say in a pot here. Our soil pH is too high for blueberries and they do quite well in large containers. You also need 2 varieties for pollination. So that might be something to think about for fall. We have them growing in 20-gallon containers at LaSalle's demonstration garden, and they're planted in composted pine bark and they get fertilized regularly. And that composted pine bark has a very low pH. So that's what they like. They like acidic soils. And every time people try to plant them in New Orleans, the soils here are just too basic. So it's not
good. That makes sense. And unfortunately right now, our soil testing lab, I believe it's closed at the moment.
They're open 1 day a week, and I'm still getting results on Fridays. So I've been handing out soil test kits, and I know a lot of other people are too. There's 2 different places you can get them off our porches here in New Orleans. So if anyone needs one, just email me, and I'll tell you where to pick one up.
Okay, great. So it's back open at least 1 day a week. So
yeah, I don't know. That's probably going to change day to day,
right.
Obviously, and then the mail seems like it's taking a long time. So it might not be the quickest thing to get a soil test done, but you do want to get a soil test done if you can. I can say that here in New Orleans, and we look at a lot of results, the pH is usually between 7 and 7.5, sometimes a little higher. It's almost always clay, lots of shell, lots of sodium. That's always pretty high. Phosphorus is pretty high. All your micronutrients are all at good levels. Okay. Nitrogen is what people get limited on here, especially in vegetable gardens. If you're doing in-ground plantings, you're going to have a nitrogen source at some point during the growing season.
That's good to know. Okay. Yeah. Vanessa is just saying, she's chiming in on the chain link fence thing. She said she tried cucumbers on a chain link fence and many were growing through the fence.
Yeah, they will do that. So you have to kind of check on them. Otherwise they get stuck.
That's funny. Let's see. Dana said, I had a great garden in Texas, but here in Monroe, my mother's yard floods terribly and doesn't drain well. And we don't have a lot of sun due to the number of trees. I've never had good luck with growing in containers. Do you have any tips on growing in containers?
Definitely use a large enough container. That's one of the first mistakes we see people make. 5-gallon or larger for most crops. Don't crowd them. Like one tomato plant needs at least 5 gallons of soil. It's good to have multiple drainage holes in the bottom because the roots will plug them up. So what we like to do is we'll actually drill holes in the bottom of 5-gallon pails and in the sides so that it drains a little better. And then invest in a really good quality potting mix. The regular soil from the ground is too heavy for containers. We've got a lot of folks trying that here with varied success, mostly failures. So you do want to invest in a really good quality potting mix. Add some compost if you can. Try to keep those containers out of the direct sunlight in the afternoon because they do get hot and the roots are right there. So you can actually cook the plant roots if you're putting your containers in that afternoon sun.
She did say that she's having trouble too because they don't get a lot of sun due to the number of trees. So maybe some possible plants she can grow in the shade.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few things. Ginger and turmeric, that's one that I'm growing in my shade garden. I've also got some garlic, believe it or not, because that's typically a winter crop.
Yeah.
So, a lot of our winter crops you can kind of trick with a shade garden right now. Trying to think of what else. Mint. I've got mint going in my deep shade garden. Things like that. Leafy greens even. It's not too late to plant Swiss chard. That would grow pretty well in a shady area like that.
That's great. I hope Dana's still on. We'll see if she answers back. But I think those are some great ideas for her. Audrey was asking if there's any other crops for trellises.
Yeah, so you can trellis just about any cucurbit plant. So I'm trellising all of my cucumbers, my mirlitons, butternut squash. You actually have to tie the butternut squash up so that it doesn't get too heavy and break the vine. People trellis all kinds of melons. I've seen pole beans done really well. I actually just planted some. That's a good trellis crop. If you're looking for an area to kind of shade it, it's a good place to put a trellis. You can kind of intercrop so that things that don't want that direct sun get kind of shaded by the trellis and the crop that does like the sun, if that makes sense. So yeah, you can do quite a bit on a trellis.
Neat. I had a question the other day. Someone was asking about, do you have to grow mirlitons in full sun?
I have mine in partial sun.
Okay.
They will find the sun.
They will find the sun.
They will find it. So that's kind of what I'm hoping they do because I've got this, you can kind of see it behind me. There's a chicken coop.
Neat.
With my rabbits underneath. There's actually a net over the top of that roof. And I want them to go up there. So that's the plan, and hopefully they'll find it. But in my experience growing the mirlitons, they will find the sun.
Fair enough. Okay. Nicole is asking, let's see. No. Nicole was just saying Jefferson Feed has seed and soil. Call ahead and they do curbside.
Awesome.
She's also saying, let's see, what can you tell me about Creole peppers? My neighbor gave me seeds and said they look like miniature red sweet peppers, pots versus raised beds.
Okay. Yeah, they're almost like pimento kind of pepper. We've actually had some of those. I've seen them marketed. They're not a real variety, but they're marketed as Creole peppers. You definitely want a 5-gallon container if you're going to do it that way. Or if you're doing it in a raised bed, space them out 18 inches apart from one another. They do like full sun, and they don't like to be standing in water, so well-drained soils, nice rich soil. Very few pest and disease issues. That's actually a pretty good variety for our area.
Neat. Okay, that's awesome. Ruth's saying I have a major spider mite problem.
They're bad this year.
Are they? Okay. Should I do anything else to limit spider mites? She's finally bought, I don't know how to say that.
Can you spell it?
Neoseiulus Californicus.
Is it the beneficial nematodes?
It might be. That's what she just got it as. So she's saying, is there anything else I can do to limit spider mites?
Well, any kind of smothering horticultural oil works pretty well on them. I've even resorted to clipping some of those worst infested leaves off and tying them up in a bag and trashing them. Unfortunately, they're a part of growing here. They're always going to be an issue. I would like to know how those nematodes work, though. We've got a few people down here that are they're starting to order their nematodes to control fleas with their pets in the yard. And there's a bunch of different strains of nematodes you can use for all kinds of things, different pests. So I'd be real curious to know how that works. I haven't personally tried it.
That's cool. Yeah, we'll have to hear about that. Stevie said, thanks for the tip on the blueberries. And let's see. Matt's asking, where can I find the kinds of heirloom Mirliton plants that apparently became rare after Katrina?
Okay, so there's a website called mirliton.org, and it's a locally run New Orleans website, and they have a classified section, and there are several older gentlemen who have been preserving those varieties.
Okay.
Offer them on there, so I would check that first.
That is super cool. Okay.
Yeah. It's a great website. Anyone that wants to learn about Mirlitons, you can spend a lot of time there. There's great articles. Everything about history and varieties. It's really neat.
That's incredible. Dana responded and said, we have good morning sun. I have the pots in good morning, early afternoon sun.
Okay.
Where they get late afternoon shade, but I just learned I need much bigger pots. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a big mistake we see people make. You do need a big pot.
That's fair enough. Could you show us your chickens and kind of talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've got some older ones and some younger ones. Let's see, the little guys are out. Let's see, can you see them?
A little bit, yeah.
How about now? Okay, yeah. I keep them for eggs, and I've been able to barter eggs for some plant starts that I needed for my garden, so that was fun. But yeah, they're easy to keep. We get a lot of calls about people keeping urban chickens, and here in Orleans Parish, you can keep as many as you'd like, but no roosters.
Okay.
So that's the only rule, really. And they can't be a nuisance, so you have to keep them pretty clean. I use mine to till my compost, and it's going to be hard. I don't think the Wi-Fi is going to stretch over there.
Yeah, you're starting to get blurry now.
Yeah, but they're really good to have because we don't waste anything at my house. All of our food scraps go to the chickens, and I'm getting like a half dozen eggs a day right now. So
wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And the manure is good.
What'd you say? Sorry.
The manure is good for the garden.
I bet so.
Yep.
Evie's asking if nematodes, can really create issues for the roots of roses. Is this beneficial one you are mentioning different or the same as the ones that injure rose roots?
There's different kinds. So we have some pretty bad ones in the area. Root knot nematode is one that a lot of people's okra gets, but you can fight nematodes with nematodes. So get the beneficial strains, and there's websites that'll tell you exactly what strain you need to control which pest. Okay. And they will ship them to you. They're alive. You mix them with water, and then you water them in. So they're different. Yep.
Okay. How do you? I guess we shared your celery post the other day. Could you kind of explain how to start celery, from just a stalk?
Yeah. So you want to save the base of the celery, and I did probably about 2 inches, and I can show you. Let's see if we can see it.
Yeah.
I planted one out here. Where'd it go? Oops. Oh, it's in the other bed. I don't think the Wi-Fi is going to reach out there. But you put it in a little shallow dish of water,
Okay.
the base of it, and it takes about a week or two to root. And eventually the center point of that will grow. And then you kind of peel the outer layers off, the parts that you used. And then you plant that out into the garden. And I've got 4 of them going right now. It's really easy to do. There's a couple of YouTube videos about it. It's a good activity for kids.
Okay.
And that's actually what got me doing it, was with one of my school gardens. They have a cafeteria, and they were saving the celery bases and growing them in the classroom.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, and we made a good crop. So,
man. Well, again, y'all, like, don't get discouraged if you can't buy seeds right now or you can't find something. Like, you can actually go to the store and buy produce and actually grow a lot of it.
You can, and even the fresh herbs that you can get at the produce. Yeah. I'm thinking at the Rouses, they have the little pots of herbs. You can plant those out.
Right.
Stuff. So, yeah, don't get discouraged.
Dana was asking, who do I call to see if I can have chickens in my area, and where can I learn how to care for them? I've always wanted to have my own chickens for eggs.
Okay. It's going to vary based on the parish and municipality. So if you can call to your, if you have an SPCA, that's who regulates it here in Orleans, or you can call the parish offices. Now, it might not be a good time to get through to them, but I know online there's some lists that break it down by county and by municipality, and they have the different chicken laws listed. I think it might be mybackyardchickens.com, and that's a really good website also. And then we have an organization here called Sprout NOLA, and they're doing a webinar on urban chicken keeping. I posted that on my personal Facebook page, but if you go to their Facebook page, there'll be a link for their chicken class that's happening this week. And that's Sprout NOLA.
And if you want to, do you want to give your personal Facebook out? Because I know you're sharing a lot of things.
Yeah.
Okay, you're sharing a lot of things publicly. So, I mean, if you want to encourage people to look there too.
Yeah, I'm posting things there, and I'm posting to our G&O Gardening Facebook page.
Okay.
So you can check that out too. And I did put that chicken link on there as well. So that's going to be a pretty good class, I think. And then there's some good websites out there too. That backyard chicken one is really helpful for a lot of what I would consider hobby chicken people. So, yeah.
I hear that people have been buying them like crazy during this time.
Yeah, guilty. I got 7 a few weeks ago. So I'm up to 15 now.
Oh my gosh. I wanted to show you. So I was doing some sweet potatoes myself.
Oh, perfect.
There we go. So I got the little slips going. And what's the next step? What would you do after you get some growing up?
So you want to wait till they're 4 to 5 inches long, and then you cut them at the base, cut them off the sweet potato, and root them in a thing of water. And then once they do make roots, that's what you would plant out. Those look good. They look like they'll be ready in a week or so.
Yeah, I've had them growing for about 2-3 weeks now, and I just had them by like a sunny window.
Yep, I have mine in the window too, in the kitchen.
Yeah, so I'm like, it'll be great, and then you can just plant them up and go from there. Okay.
And a lot of people don't know the leaves of that is edible too.
Are there? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep. It's a good hot weather green because it's about too hot to have lettuce and collards and stuff like that.
Cool.
At least down.
So, yeah, fair enough. Dana was asking what was the G&O page.
Oh, it's on Facebook. It's just called G&O Gardening. And we're posting a lot of stuff there. We're sharing from the different groups that we're parts of and just seeing stuff around town. So that's a good place to start, G&O Gardening.
Okay. I'm gonna post that into the comments so people can go there. Here, let's see. There we go. Should be posted now, guys. So you can go onto their Facebook page, and Anna's sharing a bunch of stuff there. And of course, follow the Ag Centers page. And, I've been posting a lot of different videos we have from all of our agents and things like that. And now is also the time to fertilize your lawn. It's another one we've been talking about lately.
Lots of calls about lawns too. People have time. They're home and they notice things. So people are out working on their yards and their lawns too.
Everything at one time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Is there anything else? Like, could you maybe? Oh, let's see. Thank you. I've learned so much today. Thank you, Anna. That's what Anna said. Do you have anything you could show? Maybe like beginner gardeners. Like any ideas for like some beginners?
Yeah, maybe a list of easy stuff. Everyone wants to start with tomatoes. You are not a failure if you have a bad tomato. They're just really, really hard to grow in South Louisiana. Good things to start with are okra. That makes everyone look like a good gardener. We have a lot of issues with vine borers, so squash and zucchini and melons and cucumbers, stuff like that. You do want to watch out for those vine borers, but usually those things grow very easily now too. And then even if you have a small space, maybe start with some herbs, like some pots, some small pots. You don't have to be like the biggest gardener on the block. Just start small, experiment, figure out what works. And then what I've found too is that on social media, all the gardeners are sharing info with one another, and all like the Nextdoor app, there's people on there giving gardening advice and helping each other. So don't be a stranger with your neighbors. If there's somebody who's good at growing near you, try to reach out to them with a phone call or a message. See what works for them.
Fair enough. And Ruth's saying, you ladies are awesome. Thank you. So thank you, Ruth. We'll show that in the stream. Look at that.
Oh, wow. That's a mustard leaf. That's amazing.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed it. Is there any so I saw you had a seating bench over there.
Yeah, I am actually sitting right next to it. This is my outside office.
You're outside. I like it.
Yeah. And I'm seating all my trays. I'm doing like 6 trays a day right now with different things. And I'm, just kind of putting it on that free table in front of the house. So,
cool. Yeah, that's really neat. I was like, yeah. If people are starting seeds, like straight up seeds, what kind of mix should they use, like soil mix?
This is what I'm using. It's a very light potting mix.
Okay.
If you can see. Yeah. And you actually want a sterile potting mix if you can get it, because if you use stuff that has a lot of fungal pathogens, you can have some issues with like dampening off, and your seedlings are very vulnerable at that stage. So here's some trays. You can see these are just starting to get going. I actually do a liquid fertilizer every few days. I've got some fish emulsion. That's a good thing to use. Some Miracle-Gro if I run out of fish emulsion, but you do need to start feeding those seedlings once they get, their true leaves, their first real leaves.
Okay.
So, yeah, you can start seeds in just about anything, like egg cartons. I even saw people were using toilet paper tubes. You can use eggshells. You get really creative. If it's a container and you can poke a hole in the bottom, you can start seeds in it. So
that's pretty cool. And before we sign off, could you, if you don't mind, going to the front again and showing off your victory garden just to everybody?
Let's walk out there.
Because I know some people logged in, so I wanted to show them, what you've been working on and how you created that garden.
Yeah, I mean, it's brand new. I got sick right after Mardi Gras, so I've been home since then. And, this is all, none of this was here before. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible. You've done so much with your property. And for y'all who logged on late, she does not have a huge yard. Like, it's an urban area, it's an urban space, and you can actually grow a lot of food on a very small piece of land.
Yeah, this is the front yard, and this was a driveway.
Wow.
You guys see that?
That's so cool.
Yeah, there's my corn. It's working pretty good.
You're getting a little blurry.
Okay, how about now?
Still fuzzy. I think Wi-Fi's kind
of. Okay, I'll walk a little closer to the router.
Crazy.
Yep.
But anyways, I think we will log off for today. But thank y'all for joining us today. And thank you, Anna, for coming on and showing off everything you do.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people learned a lot of different things today. And I mean, Victory Garden's such like the trend right now. Like people know.
Yeah, it's a great thing to do, especially if your kids are stuck at home. Put them to work.
Keep them growing. Put them in the dirt.
Yeah.
Like, that's a great way to do it.
Yep.
So again, everybody, remember, email your agents right now, and I will put in the link at the end of this to where to find your local agent and who it is and who you can contact. Yep. And we'll go from there. So anyways, thank y'all, and we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.